There's a couple of things. The first is, from a Mars portfolio perspective, when it comes to the snacking category, they are heavily exposed to chocolate. And the cocoa has been a structural issue in terms of cost for a while, and we think that's going to continue indefinitely. And so this helps them diversify out that snacking side of their portfolio. And it also helps them do a little bit more in emerging markets, which is an area where Kellanova has some strength.
Okay, so is it offense or defense from that perspective? Because it feels like it could be a combination of both, like diversify away from just pure cocoa, but also expand.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two. On the cocoa side, it's a little bit of risk mitigation, in helping to ease some of the costs they're feeling there. And traditionally, chocolate has held up actually really well through the pandemic and after the pandemic, but we're finally starting to see a little bit of weakness in consumer demand for chocolate, just because of food inflation. And so diversification will certainly help with that. And then, on a global basis, Mars has leading, they're in the top 3 market share in almost every region in confectionery. And so having more of the salty snack side and getting more into that can only consolidate their market share position in a lot of leading global, regions.
Jen, what makes this deal really interesting for me is the Mars company, because it's a private company. What do we know about Mars? Maybe, I don't know, size, capitalization. Did they ever talk to investors?
Very rarely, but what they have disclosed, their annual revenue is a little over $50 billion. So definitely a sizable company. And what I think is very interesting is when you break that revenue down, nearly 60% of their revenue is coming from pet food. So although everybody associates Mars with chocolate, the larger portion of their business is pet. And so they own the Pedigree brand, they own the Whiskas brand, and that is a big powerhouse for them. And so when, that's part of the reason we think there actually won't be a lot of FTC pushback on this, because it's a smaller part of their portfolio, and the products are, there's really no overlap between what Kellanova does and what Mars does.
Amazingly, I did not know that.
I did not know that
at all. This is why we love Jen Bartashus.
Chocolate-covered dog food.
I mean, that would kill them, but sure, right? Dogs can't have chocolate. Isn't that a thing? So, Jen, does this mean we're going to see a lot of other M&A in the space? And if so, sort of who and where would we see that?
Well, we've seen a lot of sentiment towards tuck-in acquisitions over the last couple of years, but there are some pressures that are affecting the industry. So when you listen to what all of these packaged food companies are saying, their priority for 2024 and headed into 2025 is regaining volume. But the problem is the consumer is not yet in a position where they're buying bigger volumes of food. And so M&A is a potential route to be able to better navigate the market. So, in this instance with this deal, we're expecting over $1 billion in synergies between Mars and Kellanova, coming from procurement, coming from manufacturing, things like that. So I think that this deal may spark at least some consideration for larger deals again in the packaged food space, as they're trying to find ways to contain costs, expand their geographic and product footprint at a time when it's hard to spend to spur consumers into buying greater volumes. So it may be an alternative for them.
Jen, here's the big question out there for, I think, most consumers, as John Tucker digs into a bag of Cheez-Its. In food inflation, you cover the packaged goods companies, you cover the grocery stores as well. Those prices, while the rate of inflation has slowed, those prices ain't coming down, are they?
They're coming down, but very, very slowly. And so if you look on it on a basis, a comparison back to 2019, food prices are still almost 20% higher than they were in 2019. Now, in certain categories where there's been relief, especially from the cost of commodities, so as corn has come down and soy has come down and wheat has come down, sugar has come down, we've seen a little bit of price relief, but it's going to take some time for that to really translate into something that consumers feel in their pocketbook, instead of just individual products being either not getting increases or coming down slightly in price.